What's up, mates? Welcome back to another episode. Today in the studio, I had the delightful Carlisle Diana. She is the CEO of Girl Science. And if you stick around, you'll find out exactly what that means. It might surprise you. So we dive into Carlisle's health journey. It's one of breaking down to break through. She lost her health, got wrapped up in body image issues, 3 Soul Cycle classes a day and kale smoothies, and it broke her. And she had to find her way back to health using Girl Science. So we talk about some of the tenets of that approach, why it's critical that you put your legs up the wall. What is the lymphatic system? What is histamine intolerance? How can you heal it? And why it actually could be contributing to your situationship. We talk about some of her more outlandish theories, like has birth control made women worse drivers? We talk about beauty standards, confidence, aura, and how being sexy is so much more than the physical body. It's the state that you operate from. This is a super fun, engaging, and conversation that goes into a wide array of topics. So let's get into it with Carlisle from Girl Science. Carlisle, I was actually trying to do this episode with my legs up the wall. I thought we could lie down here and just get those feet up there, but Carson said it wouldn't work. So we're just going to sit in the chairs and we're going to have a conversation today all about Girl Science. Welcome.
Thank you. I would have loved to do a podcast with our legs up the wall.
Yeah, what's that whole story all about?
We wouldn't have been able to feel our feet by the end. It's kind of a crazy story how this all came about, and I don't even know where I first saw this. I think I saw it somewhere, someone saying putting your legs up the wall after a flight is good for swollen feet. And I did it once. And what people don't realize, like when you put your legs up the wall for 15 to 20 minutes, it does help increase lymphatic flow, drain your lymph, but it also gets you into that parasympathetic state. It relaxes your nervous system and increases digestion. And I started doing it every day. And after about 2 weeks, I started noticing my allergy symptoms would go away, like that stuffy nose, like those ambient kind of like histamine flare-ups got so much better. And so I was like, I think there's a relationship between stagnant lymph and allergies. And I'd never researched this. It was just like a theory I had thought up of. And so I was actually sitting with my legs up the wall. And this was during the big boom of like girl dinner and girl math. And I was like, this new theory of mine, this is girl science. Like I have no proof for this, but I just put it out on Twitter. And I was like, this is my theory. And then I tried to do some digging into it. And I saw someone, I think it was Dr. Jabon Moore, did this whole thing about signs of stagnant lymphatic system. And one of them was like recurrent allergies. And I was like, okay, so my theory was right, but I had no research. I didn't do a single Google search. I just put it out into the world. And so I was like, girl science is when I didn't need proof to know that this was real. And that tweet just like kind of went viral. And then I just loved that phrase and I started using it all the time. And it wasn't until almost 2 years later that I made an Instagram video about it. So that's kind of like the full circle of where girl science came from. It was just like me being silly online. And I was like, oh, I love the idea of girl science. I remember searching the phrase because you can keyword search in Twitter. You can find anything you want. And I was shocked that nobody had used it before. Like it was all like women in STEM, like girls in science. I'm like, no, this is a little different.
This is different, yeah. A little more whimsical, a little more intuitive. You've got girl science is not needing years of research or randomized control trials to know something your body is telling you immediately. When I heard you say that on that video, I was like, yeah, that's so good. It's just this. Yeah, we're obviously being playful with it, but it's this trust in your intuition, not gaslighting yourself out of, well, I don't know, or the doctor said this, or it couldn't be this because Google says this. It's just like, I know something, I followed my intuition, it turned out to be true, and girl science is born. And the rest is evolving history. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's you have to build that relationship with your body to be able to trust it so much. But at the end of the day, science is always changing, and anyone that's been in the health space for years knows that. It's just... And so it just goes beyond whatever the trend is. And it's like building that trust because our bodies are so intelligent, way more intelligent than anything that can be tested. And so many of these tests are fake as well. Like you don't know, you can't control all of these things. So yeah, that's what we just dabble in a little girl science every day and see where it gets us.
I wonder, I don't know exactly what boy math is, but I wonder if it's similar to girl science. Do you know? Yeah. Or a lack thereof. Yeah. It's, no, it's very interesting what you say because science has a lot of flaws for all of the value that people bestow in it and things like that. Like you said, over a long enough timeline, anything that science once claimed was true is probably now demonstrably false, and it just keeps blowing with the wind. And I think it's a good invitation not to, throw all the baby out with the bathwater and say that it's useless, but to not outsource your locus of authority to the capital S science and treat it as a god, to like listen to yourself, to feel what sits and resonates with you. And in the age of information, there's wonderful, because there is a lot of information, but you need that discernment, right? But you said something I think is really important, which is it takes a while to get to that point where you can be in touch with your body.
Yes.
I think, and I'm assuming, because I'm not a girl, surprise, surprise, I know I have the long hair, but it probably is harder for women to do that in a sense, because they're often under a lot more influences chemically, be it hormonal birth control, societally through pressures of beauty standards, toxic stuff, makeup, smells, potions, lotions, etc. So does that resonate for you at all, of a journey of like connecting back to yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you ask any girl what the first time they made a decision to eat something because they thought it would make them skinny, because they thought they were going to lose weight, or the first time in their life that they became aware of their body negatively, and how that changed their entire relationship with food. Because I really love intuitive eating, and I think it gets taken out of context and used on people who aren't healthy enough to build that relationship with their body. But one of the principles of intuitive eating is like we tell kids, like if they come to you and they're like, I'm so hungry, and it's like, well, you have to wait 2 hours until dinner. You start right then building a relationship with them where they can't trust even their hunger cues.
Right.
And so if you can't even trust your hunger cues, you have a really hard time developing a very deep relationship with your body. So you kind of have to really go back to the basics first. And I do agree, like women are inundated with chemicals and birth control. And I think that if you're turning off the ability of your body to create life, you're kind of severing that intuitive connection you have with the divine and with, being women's bodies are a little home for creation.
Yeah.
And so things like birth control and everyone, I feel like this really hit like the boomers and the Gen X generation hard, whether it was like the low fat diets or like all of those things. Like every woman is always trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds. And if you just think about, if you thread the needle through how many times that has affected a daily decision, and how many times like your body's aware of that. Like your body knows every time you're denying itself true nourishment. Like I can feel it. It's like begging you for it, and you're overriding that. And so it's taken me years to come back to, I think it's fascinating. The older you get, the more sensitive you become to like the changing of seasons. And it's like, I don't even have to look up what vegetables are in season, because I start to crave them as like the seasons change. And that's not something I would have done when I was younger. When I was younger, I'd have been like, no, this is what I'm eating because this is the right thing to eat, and it's gonna keep me in shape, like all of that. So it's just the little ways that the intuition finds you throughout the path, but you have to devote yourself to it ceaselessly at first, which is not fun, but you really have to build that trust, and then it extends into every area of your life, I think.
And I guess you have to go through a little bit of the valley of despair, where you are stuck in this tension of like the mind is constantly being overriding the body, like you said. These death by 1,000 paper cuts where you've betrayed yourself. I had a mentor say to me once, I've said it on the show a bunch of times, it's one of my favorite quotes though: don't ignore when the body speaks for what the mind thinks. And that's the synopsis of basically what you said. Like, I'm hungry, even going back to being this big, and parent says, well, dinner's in an hour, so just wait. And then the subtext to that is you're not really hungry, you're just being annoying.
Right.
And there's a little injury, and then it manifests in all different kinds of ways, and you add on some cultural baggage, and the rest is history. What was your health journey like? I know you've said online in the past that I think you started counting calories, or the idea of counting calories came when you was 11 years old, but you've had a history of overcoming some health challenges. Take me back to what stands out the most and some of the things you've gone through. Yeah,
and that so many women messaged me about that, because there was a very specific calorie counting app called MyFitnessPal, and any girl who's like, a millennial or Gen Z knows what it's like to like download that when you were 11, which I'm like, why did we have iPhones when we were 11? Right. I'm like, I had no business counting calories on my phone, let alone having a phone at that age with so much on it. And it's kind of a long story. Like, I was blessed to be raised with a mom who was like a crunchy homeschool mom before mommy bloggers were like a thing. Like, she fed us, grass-fed meats, and we had our water filtered, and she was kind of aware of it. So I always knew that the food we were eating was different. Like, we didn't have like normal Oreos or, zebra cakes in our house. Like, it wasn't like a junk food house, but I don't know how to describe it, but I was always like maybe like a little bit chubby, and it's not it's not like I was fat. I want to go on record saying that, but I also was a child actor. And when you grow up in that industry, you are hyper aware of how you look on camera. You're hyper aware that like you're not the same as your friends. And I started noticing from a very young age, I just couldn't eat like my friends could eat without gaining weight. And then you see all of the like, I think this is like the era of like the 100-calorie snack packs. And so you start to put that together. And I think what's really fascinating about calorie counting and eating disorders in general is the root cause of a lot of them is control, because it's like the one thing in your life you can control.
Right.
And so I think I started counting calories when I was like 11. And then the craziest thing about it is you can count activities. So it's like if I do 50 sit-ups, it's like 5 calories. So you can become obsessive about it. And it's just such a good outlet for obsession. And so I got really almost like addicted to that because it was such a form of control in my life. And I felt like I didn't have any, which obviously I was like a kid. And then I had a good life after that, and I kind of like got over it and didn't really think about it. And then it kind of came around again when I was 17. I think I read a book about, well, actually, this is crazy. Have you ever heard of Tumblr?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, well, so there was something, the girls who are listening are going to know what I'm talking about, but there's something on Tumblr called Thinspo, and this was like unregulated internet access. And girls who were severely underweight and who were self-harming would post pictures of themselves, and it was like there's this whole thing where it's like you could search the hashtag Thinspo, and it'd be all of these really skinny girls like glamorizing severe anorexia. I have like a crazy theory where I think I was like, was this AstroTurf to make women infertile? Like it just came out of nowhere, and you couldn't get on this app without seeing it and looking at it, and it was very dark, very inappropriate, and it was such a glamorization and romanticization of anorexia, and it kind of like hit me like a little bit like a mind virus. And so when I was 17, I got really into counting calories again, and I think it's such a challenge. It's like a good mental challenge because it can be like, well, can I only eat 900 calories today?
Wow.
And that was like my max for so long. And I was counting carbs too, and fat. So it was like just like protein and I know. I'm like, I think back to that, and it's like, I wish I could tell young girls now it's really not worth it, because the health issues that you struggle with later on and how hard it is to even lose weight later on because your metabolism is so wrecked is just disastrous. Like I was drinking what are those Atkins shakes? It's like, it's like a protein shake, and the first ingredient's like wood chips. Yeah. It was like that for breakfast. And so, from then on, and I got really skinny, and once you get skinny, you look so good. People like are complimenting you all the time, and it just becomes really addictive. Yeah. And it just kind of spirals out of control. And then from restricting myself for so long, I developed like a binge eating disorder, which is like the most embarrassing like eating disorder to possibly have, because it feels so like gluttonous. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you've strangled like the control thing, and then in these moments of weakness or whatever, you're just like, blah.
Yes, and it's funny because I hate talking about it, because I feel like any type of eating disorder feels like a rich white woman disease. Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's when you don't have like severe problems in your life, it's just like, you know, you're a teenager and your life's a lot of control and things like that. But so from then on, I had completely destroyed my relationship with food. And so I was either restricting or binging, and it was just like a constant cycle that I truly felt like I could not get out of. I felt completely beholden to this. And the obsession with calories led me to the obsession with ingredients, which in a way was a positive, because I was like 18 years old, and I remember my high school boyfriend would buy me Heineken because it was the only beer that was non-GMO. And so I became like obsessed with, but too much with ingredients. And this was during the boom of, you know, like kale smoothies and red meat is bad. Like this was like the tail end of that, that movement before this next animal-based movement came out. So I got sucked into that. Like I didn't eat red meat for a long time. The only animal product I would eat was wild caught fish, and I was having kale smoothies like 3 times a day, and I was doing fasted cardio like all day long. And so I just felt so trapped, and I really didn't fully see a way out of how my entire day wouldn't revolve around food. Because when you're in that state, your body's starved for nutrients, but you cannot do anything more. You can't go out to eat with your friends. Holidays are all about food. Everything becomes about food. And so at that point I was like, I don't even really care how I look anymore. I just want to be free of this. And I struggled with that for a really long time. And I thought I was being so healthy and doing all the right things. And then my health just crashed. I think after years of doing that, I was living in LA, and I was taking 2 to 3 SoulCycle classes a day. I was under eating. Wow. And the craziest thing was, like, I am skinnier now than I was then. I think my body was so stressed and so inflamed and so starved of nutrients that I was actually holding on to weight. So you just keep pushing through because you think it's just you. And so I basically kind of just blew out my adrenals. I don't really know exactly what happened. I never got some type of like diagnosis, but I felt myself slip away, basically. Like all of my energy was gone. It was everything in me to put on a pair of jeans, to shower. I wasn't my normal creative self. I canceled every plans. Like there's, months at a time where I barely remember doing anything because I would stay in bed till like 4 p.m.
Wow.
And the frustrating thing for me was everyone kept telling me I was depressed. And I was like, I'm not depressed. Like I'm not depressed. Like something's wrong with me physically. And I don't know what it is. And I'm actually just too tired to figure it out. That's what I think a lot of people get stuck in. They know something's wrong, but they don't have the actual physical energy to investigate and to heal themselves. And I just remember just like bawling on my kitchen floor, being like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to have to move home. I can't really keep a job. I'm so exhausted. And everyone's just telling me to get on Prozac, but I'm stubborn. And I was like, I'm not going to get on Prozac. I'm going to move home and I'm going to figure out what's wrong with me. And then I moved home, lived with my mom in an apartment. And this is when 2020 happened and everything shut down. COVID happened, everything shut down. And throughout that year, I just started falling into all of the rabbit holes. Like I went into 2020 very distrusting of the medical system already, thankfully. But throughout that, I just spent almost like an entire year where my only focus was eating the right foods, getting sunlight every day, changing my whole life, like unplugging the Wi-Fi at night. I was like, I'm going to do literally every single thing. And I had to unlearn a lot of like these old beliefs about, food. And I had avoided dairy for so long and I had avoided red meat for so long. And I started eating a diet that supported my nutrient stores. And it took probably like a year and a half before I felt better. But I'll never forget the first day I felt like my spark come back. I literally just sobbed. Like I was in my car and I was just like sobbing because especially when you're in your early 20s and everyone is living life, falling in love, graduating college. Like I've always felt so behind because I spent so many years just like struggling. And so once that came back, I just started sharing about it online because I was so excited to be good again. I was like, I feel like everyone needs to know this. Like it's so easy to get sucked into the medical system. And I think by the time I saw someone, I gotten blood work done and they were just like, it's normal. Like you just need some vitamin D. And I was I really just don't think it is. So I saw an acupuncturist and she went over like some of my labs and things like that. And I remember her telling me, she was like, your body was like so stressed and your adrenals were like so damaged that any form of working out besides walking or stretching would be too much for you right now, which is like crazy when I was like 24. So it's a very long-winded story, but that's basically how I found out everything about health and women's hormones. Like I didn't know anything about my cycle. I've never been on birth control, but I didn't even know that you could only get pregnant 5 days a month. And so once you start to learn about your body and then once you start to learn about how food interacts with it and how everything interacts with your body, like your whole world just kind of opens up and changes. And it gave me my life back in a way. Yeah. So, and it wasn't a doctor and it wasn't, a course online. It was just basically independent study and experimenting. Like, of course, yeah. I was just curious enough to try I tried a carnivore diet and I tried fruit fasts and everything. And just through trial and error, I eventually found my way back to myself.
Wow. Yeah, there's the line that desperation can become motivation.
Yes.
And it definitely sounds like that was that for you. There's another quote that a person with their health has a million wishes and a person without their health has one wish. And it's
absolutely.
for the health. That's it. It's all that matters. Health really is wealth. But as you're going through it, like being on the other side of going through that now, and I'm sure there are still things that you're working on and we're always trying to grow and evolve and stuff. But when you think back and you retell that story and you think about all that self-implied pressure, how much of that do you think, not intentionally or maybe intentionally, but how much of it is perpetuated by women to women, like these unrealistic beauty standards? Because when I think about it, this might be a cultural thing. I grew up in the UK. The guys weren't gathering together and making comments necessarily about girls' weights and saying like she should be skinnier.
No, it's
they
not
didn't
the
really
guys.
care, right? And I've become more interested in this like intrasexual competition thing. Like even now with all the Botox and the filler, it seems to be like women are doing this to keep up with beauty standards perpetuated by women. And I guess it could be 100%. Like initially spawned by, trying to impress men or whatever. But it seems, I think, and again, limited perspective here, that it's being driven a lot by pressures that women put on women.
No, I know. I actually agree. Like no guy, especially if he has high T, will you meet is going to care about like stretch marks or like a little bit of cellulite. Like that is such like a women thing. But I do think I think the part of our brains that criticize visually is slightly bigger. So we're genuinely just more aware of it.
Hyper focus on it.
We just hyper focus on it. And I always tell people too, like, you meet 21-year-old girls who are getting Botox. And
yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm like, they're like, it's preventative. And I'm like, that's a lot. Like, we don't know. We don't even, this, you haven't even, it hasn't even been around long enough to see if that works.
That's
20
just great
years from now.
marketing that somebody said that.
It's great marketing, and Botox is expensive. But what I always like to say is, like, you know, God gave you one precious, perfect life, and his plan for you is not to lament in your house about wanting to be hotter. Like, it is a crazy thing to take a stat of your life and really every day to look at how much time you have spent just wishing to be hotter.
I know, right?
And or focusing on your body image. I think we just are thinking about ourselves too much. And I mean, I'm very mystical in all of my beliefs, so forgive me, but I truly believe if you change like your aura, and if you're very curious about life and you approach it with a whimsical nature, I really do feel like the structure of your face almost like changes. It's like when you get to know someone and you start to love them, they become like the most beautiful person on earth. So that's always been my plan. I'm like, I don't want to get Botox, but I'm just gonna be like really happy, and then that'll just change my face.
It's actually funny you said that, because as you were saying it, I was like, you know, there's obviously, you have your given meat suit, and you can kind of modify it however you so please. Like, I'm covered in tattoos and I like to weightlift and yada yada. So that's my modifications, and you have yours, and other people have theirs. But hotness extends far beyond the meat suit, and when you were saying it before you even said it, I was like, it's like this aura thing.
You gotta have max aura.
Yeah, this aura thing, whatever it is, just this vibe about you that attracts people, and that can never change, like, from an outside in process. It's an inside out process, and that's a lot of the time probably actually releasing the grip a little bit, releasing this obsession with being cuter, hotter, skinnier, bulkier, whatever it is, and just like confidence, you know, trust, flow, whimsical. You know, these things will, because that's really also what's interacting when two people share space. Is it not just the, you know, the thing that I can see? We share energies, right? We share space. And again, some people will think that's woo-woo, but I think it's pretty well documented, and everybody will have an experience in life where they've got the ick, or they felt like something was behind them or looking at them, and only to turn around and realize that they was. And animals sense, you know, where they're like, why doesn't this animal like this person? I think there's something literally about their energy. Their nervous system is giving off a weird vibe. So maybe the key to the hotness you're looking for is not just in the physical mods, but in the internal ones.
No, it definitely transcends the physical. And also, I think that we were so inundated with the like fat positivity movement,
right,
that I also tell people, like, it's okay to want to lose weight. Like, also because like you feel better when you're in shape,
right?
And it's okay to like dress nice and clean up. But at the same time, if you just make looking good your own personal god, it's never ending. And that's why people get addicted to plastic surgery, because there's always something you can change and tweak. And I don't know. I feel like God gave you the face he did for a reason. And you kind of have to, throughout your life, you might find that reason. But I wouldn't judge people for things like that. But I agree.
Yeah. It is weird, the younger people getting on Botox thing too, because again, just my opinion and just my perspective, but I think there's a threshold that they cross quite quickly where I think it has the opposite effect. I think it makes them look older, and it kind of is gentrifying how women all look the same. They end up having the same kind of face, the same shape of lips, the same shape of eyebrows. And it's just like, it's a weird thing that seems to be happening, you know, globally, that everything is driving towards like a grayness, a normality.
Yes, like millennial gray.
Yeah, millennial gray.
Everything is millennial gray, and everyone has Instagram face. Yeah, and Botox is really terrible for your lymphatic system as well. And if you're freezing certain muscles, you're going to force other muscles to work twice as hard, which will atrophy in the long term. So I'm just not a fan of, and also it may look great in pictures. That's my thing. But if you meet someone up close who half their face is frozen, and you're like having a conversation with them, you're missing like those little winks and the little quivers of their face, like all those things that make us so like uniquely human, and that makes life feel so real. And so many things about this world don't even feel real anymore. And so I'm like, I'm beholden to the idea that I just love real faces, and everything goes in trends. And so like, I think the next trend is going to be like, you know, slightly weird noses and faces that have lots of wrinkles. Like, people just move on to the next thing so quickly.
Yeah. This is a little bit of bro science for you to challenge the girl science. But I think I actually saw this. It might have been a white paper. I don't know if it ever like went through the full rigorous testing, but it was positing that idea that you just said about the micro muscles of the face and everything that we're picking up on when we're talking to people. But it looked at it through the lens of mothers of children that had excessive Botox. And it was basically talking about the inability for the child to fully connect to the signals that the mother was giving them through facial and body language, because they were so just kind of,
Frozen
stiff.
mama.
And that's very interesting. I mean, we had the COVID pandemic lockdown when you covered half of people's faces through masks, that it severely hindered the development of children, because they hear the noise, but they can't put the tone to it. They can't see the face moving. So there's probably a point of diminishing returns with this stuff, because things are supposed to move. Lines are supposed to appear. Wrinkles and dimples and quirks are naturally beautiful if you learn to appreciate them,
No, I agree. And there's plenty of things you can do, like face taping and all those kinds of little fun things.
Right. Put your legs up the wall. So let's get into this lymph thing. Break it down for me a little bit. So basics, what is the lymphatic system and why should we be paying attention to it?
Oh gosh, I have so many theories that I've been thinking about through with the lymphatic system, because we know it's really important for our immune system. So it carries and flushes out things. Like if you get sick, that's why you get a swollen lymph node. Or even if if I shave my armpit and I get if I cut myself a little bit, I'll notice a swollen lymph node because it's trying to heal. So it's going to go to places that need healing, and it's going to be like one of your first lines of defense. And it can it's a liquid, but it can get stagnated. And someone asked me a question the other day, and they were like, well, why do I have to keep doing this? Why is my lymphatic system so stagnant? And I was really trying to think through this, and I was like, I think that's a really good question, because it seems to be such a big problem. And there's all of these businesses popping up that do lymphatic drainage massage, and people will post before and after pictures, and it's a big difference. And I'm so why are we so full of the stagnant lymph? And I really do think, I think I've seen one person talk about this, and I don't fully know the science behind it, but I think there's a huge connection between excessive EMF exposure and stagnant lymphatic systems, because even people who are very physically active will struggle with stagnant lymph. And I think it's one of the only things that has really changed on a big enough scale, because I really don't think this had to be a huge problem a long time ago. I think that people will say, oh, your lymphatic system doesn't move, so it has to move itself. But I think it has everything to do with posture will affect your lymphatic flow. Your breathing patterns will affect your lymphatic flow. I personally believe, though I can't attest to the science on this, that the EMFs will affect our lymphatic flow.
Well, let me add a little context to that, because just this morning, the first guest of today's shoot was an EMF expert. And
Interesting.
Was talking about the big three, and his third of the big three was how EMFs disrupt the fourth phase of water. They literally break the water structure and the cellular membranes that we're supposed to have something called easy water, or this structured water. And water becomes structured in a healthy organism that has proper hydration, is grounded, is getting enough full spectrum infrared light, etc. And that structures the water. But EMFs disrupt this, and they make the water, they change it chemically. And that would be very much implicated in something like lymph, which is a liquid-based thing. So I think it's interesting that your intuition is going there, because I think he would also agree with that.
No, that makes it absolute sense to me, in terms of because you can structure the water in your body by grounding too. So I think it would make sense that even something like grounding, even though it's not a physical movement, it's not a massage, would be very beneficial for your lymphatic system because it is a liquid. So I think that's very fascinating. And I also think that there's a huge mental link too. And I've said this was my second girl science theory was, I think overthinking and stagnant lymph are deeply tied. And I think that if you are a chronic overthinker, that will cause your lymph to stagnate. And I think the reverse is true. I think working on your lymphatic system is also going to release your thoughts a little bit. And I say this as a chronic, no one can overthink more than me, because I like to be prepared, and I like to think through worst case scenarios, which is not a good way to live. And I'm trying to actively break those patterns. But I just noticed that if I'm feeling particularly stagnant-y and, puffy, and I've been traveling a lot, I get stuck in those thought patterns. And I think there's a lot of freedom in the belief that our thought patterns can be physical. Yeah. And they're just, it's kind of like what came first, of the chicken or the egg. But I think attacking it from both sides is a really great way to work. So move your lymph physically, and then let go of your thoughts, and just really pay close attention to every day how it changes. But yeah, I start my morning every morning. I drink a herbal tea that's really good for gently moving your lymphatic system. And I notice a huge difference almost immediately in the morning. So
I think that makes sense to me, because I think the analogy when you're speaking is like one of a river that flows.
Yes.
And if the river is flowing, it's usually healthy, and there's not these like nasty little pools where algae grows. But if you try to contain water, or you don't give it an outlet and it becomes stagnant, then it putrefies and viruses can take place, or that might be negative thoughts in the body. If the river isn't flowing and constantly moving, that it just gets stuck in this energy of like resistance and stagnation, and that manifests in the mind. And then it, like you said, it's chicken or egg. I think Joe Dispenza always says that thoughts are the language of the mind, emotions are the language of the body, and they are delicately tied, because let's just say you have an anxious thought, regardless of which came first, that the anxious thought increases norepinephrine and adrenaline and cortisol, and therefore the body constricts, and then the mind picks up on the body constricting, so the anxious thought gets more anxious, and all of a sudden you're in quite the downward spiral, which sounds like you're probably familiar with, as you start to
I've spiraled a few times.
Yeah,
but I always say, my mom's big into physics, and an object in motion stays in motion, so my new thing is we're going to spiral up. So if you're already spiraling, you're headed really hard in one direction, you just gotta spiral up from now on.
Yeah, that's cool. I saw someone post recently, not science, but useful. I like this. This is where I get whimsical. I'm less concerned with whether something is true, more concerned with whether it's useful. So I don't care if it's true. I don't care if the science supports it. If it's useful, it might as well be true, and it's helping you. So this person online said depression can't hit a moving target. And again, is that probably literally figuratively true? No, but it's useful because that makes her, when I feel this way, I've got to move, and then that helps her, and therefore depression can't find her. So it's just really interesting to have these things that you think about, these little tools that you lean on, because I think thoughts create things. Like, they do determine your reality. And again, if the thoughts are occurring inside of this body and the body is sick, then your ceiling for how positive your thoughts can be is really low. Like, I imagine you going through, when you were at your breaking point, even though you didn't feel depressed, I imagine the quality of your thoughts and how hopeful and how you were visioning about the future and maybe the family you were going to have one day, and all of that stuff was probably just not even on the radar. It was just survive, right?
It was total survival mode. It's like you can't even think about having a future, because you just want to be out of it so bad. And I think 90% of our thoughts day to day are recurring.
Yeah, right.
Which I think is fascinating too. So anytime I have a recur thought, I'm like, I can't be the 90%. I've got to break out of this.
Yeah. What are some of your most potent needle movers now? Let's say you just, maybe it's a cycle thing, or maybe it's just like the world is heavy and you feel you got that little weight over you. What are you leaning into the most?
Oh my gosh. This is such a tough question. I'm so, I would say I'm so mutable in the things that I turn to. And I'm very much like I could not choose a death row meal, because it totally depends on my mood. You'd have to ask me day of.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think right now is actually running. And I've hated running my entire life. I had never ran more than a mile until 2 months ago. I didn't even think I was physically capable of being able to run more than a mile. But I started running in the mornings, and that has completely changed the trajectory of my day, my life. And I know I'm way late discovering this, but I'm like, guys, have you heard of going for a jog in the morning? So I would say going for a run, and then coming back to my creativity. I think whenever I feel like I'm in a rut, I have to create, and it's usually in the kitchen, or it's usually some form of writing, or even making. I love making little Instagram videos. That is a very big creative outlet for me. I like telling stories. I think stories are fascinating. And so even if I'm really exhausted, I think having an actual creative outlet, and I have a little apothecary in my house. I have a curio cabinet, and I have stacks of herbs, and I will just come home, and if I make specifically rose water, which is so funny. Most people hate the taste of rose water. And for years I've been I think there's miracles in this water. And everyone will drink it and they're like, this tastes like shit. They're like, what do you mean this changed your life? I have, so I order these rose buds from Bulgaria, and I'll make a rose water, and then I'll make a hibiscus water. I'll put it on the sun for a few hours. And, then I'll usually make a jello from that, or I'll just make a tea from that and drink it all day. And so if I can come back to feeling I live in an old school, I always used to jokingly say my dream job would be hundreds of years ago to have a little apothecary and candy shop, and I would live above it, and people would ring the bell, and they would tell me their woes, and I would give them a little prescription.
There you go.
That's me in another lifetime. And so I would say coming back to my apothecary, and not in a controlling I have to take the right things to get myself back on balance, but just the creation of being in a kitchen or the creation of, you know, making videos, things like that. Like I just have to come back to anytime I'm overwhelmed, I'm just consuming too much. And then once I get back to creation, I find myself immediately again, I would say. Yeah,
that's so good. And it's so hard not to fall into that trap today, you know, because our lives are very digital and there's always crazy shit going on and you get sucked in and then you're so disconnected from your body, from each other, from the other side, from what's happening and spiralsville, you know? So you have to have whatever it is that you have. And like you said, go into your little medicine cabinet and feeling into like what my body's asking for right now. And again, to your point, like believing, like if you believe that this rose water is magical, who's here to sell you that it's not? Like if you believe it, and there's a reason we have to measure the placebo effect, right? Without even getting into the fact that like there could be medicinal properties here. We account for this in every study we've ever done, and it is very real. And so is the nocebo effect. So you believe it's, again, literally true, who knows, figuratively true, hell yeah, it is. It helps me, it's medicinal, and if I believe it is, then it is.
No, absolutely. There's miracles in the rose water. So
there's miracles in the rose water.
I come back to it.
Is this the whole like flower essence thing? What is this a branch of? Where does this come from? Is this like tied to traditional Chinese medicine? Is it more Eastern? Is it more ancient? What is it?
So, oh my gosh, I just love flower essences, and I really do. I could be living in my own little bubble, which I usually am. So take this with a grain of salt. But I kind of believe they're like one of the next big trends. Like I feel like when I'm experimenting with them, I'm like, how has nobody discovered this? So making rose water at home is not necessarily like a flower essence, but I mean, roses are like the highest vibrational frequency of all the flowers. So I think that's where like the medicinal properties come from. But the history of flower essences, and I want to like preface this by saying it's not like, you know, it's not like a B vitamin. It's not like vitamin D where you're going to get your labs tested and you're going to supplement with it for 3 months. And then you're going to see like a physical copy of it.
This is an aura vitamin.
It's an aura vitamin. Yes. I'm stealing that. Flower essences are for max aura. Like that's what they are for. They do make you very magnetic. So proceed with caution. But it targets the actual like emotional physical access of patterns that you've been experiencing, usually negative patterns, and it kind of like slowly breaks these patterns. They say to take them for like 3 months. I can notice a difference within 4 days, sometimes 2 weeks. Like it's very quick. And so the history of it is his name was Dr. Edward Bach, and he was born in like I think 1886. He was like a traditional doctor for years, but he was just very obsessed with studying the sick, and from then he got into homeopathy. And I'm not exactly clear how he first started these experiments, but he was really fascinated with the idea of what the emotional ties to our physical illnesses. And this is somewhat new medicine in terms of how medicine goes. And so he began experimenting with specific flower species. So I'm a fan of, if you're going to start with flower essences, I wouldn't do a blend. I would start with like a specific flower.
By the way, what is this? Is it a pill? Is it? What is it?
Wait, I have it. It's a tincture.
She's locked and loaded. Okay, a tincture. Okay.
Yes, this is my stress relief because I do get very nervous on podcasts. But and so it's a little tincture. So he put like, you know, a flower, a few of these flowers, directly in a bowl of water in the sunlight, and he let the sun charge the water, and it basically draws the literal essence of the flower out. Right. So it's not like an essential oil where the petals are pressed. It's the essence is drawn out. And so now we have them, you know, with a little bit of alcohol to preserve them. And he focused on like the really big major negative emotions at first, like, you know, depression, anxiety, fear, and all I think it started off, it's very new, and it started off so small. Like I think there's only a few places in the US that are actually studying flower essences. So if you're interested in it, I would look into the Flower Essence Society. I think it's in California. I just ordered one for like just general anxiety and like fear of speaking up. And as I was ordering it, they asked me, they're like, do you want to be part of the research for this flower essence? Because it's so new and not all of the flowers have been studied about their emotional effects. But my friend Amanda posted about this one flower essence called Tansy. And what it does is it's supposed to like remove the emotional block that causes you to procrastinate. And any creative person knows you procrastinate. Like I've never met a highly creative person that doesn't procrastinate a little bit. And I saw her post about it, and this guy was basically like, I took this for a month and I wrote like, I finished writing my book and I wrote all these essays, and I was like absolutely floored by it because he was someone who didn't necessarily believe in all of this type of stuff, but she just gave it to him as a gift and was like, this will help you.
Just try.
Yeah. So I ordered this Tansy flower essence, And I started taking it, and within weeks I just noticed like the things that I would always put off, whether it was like a car appointment or packing a suitcase early, like I had zero resistance to them. So it like removed that emotional resistance. And from there, I've just kept experimenting with flower essences, and I think it's really fascinating. I have so many of them in my home, and it's really fun to like pick and choose which ones you want to experiment with. And I always tell people are like, well, which one should I order? What should I get? And I always say the wand. It's like, you know, the wand chooses the wizard. Like you really have to look through them. If you can find them in person, that's great, because you can kind of like feel their essence and see if it'll help your aura. But I've taken like tansy and then blackberry. Like it's crazy, like blackberry flower essence. If you have like a closet you've been meaning to clear out for like 4 years, like go get some blackberry flower essence, and they're cheap. They're like $15. Like it's not like some expensive supplement that's gonna like promise to fix all of these things. Like it's just like it's like a little gentle guardian angel to kind of guide you throughout your day. So I've experimented with a lot of activating ones, which are for like, you know, organization, procrastination, big projects. And then I've experimented with like calming ones, and there's even ones for like your love life. Like my friend took I forgot what it was called. I think it's called In Love by Alexis Smart. She took that for like 3 months, and then she met her husband. So
oh wow.
Not guarantee, but it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. I'm like, this is pretty much the first time I'm hearing about it, and I'm at the point where I've gone through so much like learning and then unlearning, and then this whole big surrender experiment, and you know, a very different phase of life now where I'm, you know, living on a homestead essentially, and so in touch with nature and just completely in awe of it, that something like that doesn't strike me as out of the realm of possibility anymore at all. Like the idea that, well, you even mentioned about the rose like having a very high vibrational frequency, which is interesting because isn't it like our symbol of love, you know, that we give on Valentine's Day? And what is higher vibrational frequency than love itself? Like it is the highest, right? Unconditional love is the top of the totem pole of organizing principles. And then fear, hate, if you look at other works, when they try to quantify like the energetic vibrancy of those things, they're very low vibrational states. And as you move up the chain, you want to get to a higher vibe way of being. And it sounds very kind of like hippie and woo, but people know that vibes, it's all about vibes. Everything's about vibes. And if these flower essences are essentially like helping you get to the next vibe level, that's, you know, removing the blockages, like you said, this might be more of an energetic stuckness than, you know, fixing a nutrient deficiency, for example.
It's just different. And I mean, like, go lay in a field of wildflowers and tell me you don't feel something. Like, it is, we've moved so, and old times, like people live to talk about ancestral eating, but ways of living were so mystical. They were so like, I always call myself like mythopoetic. I'm like, oh, if I see an owl, it's a sign. And I think when you move away from that, you miss out on a lot of the divine, because there's so many patterns in this world taking place at once that we just don't see. And so I really do think flower essences are such like just a magical tool for coming back to your own patterns and breaking old patterns. And I think that you have to just be brave and curious. And I think now if someone has like an emotional block, they're going to read a self-help book or go to a talk therapist. And it's just like, I don't know. I think I'd rather just drink a little bit of flowers and and work through it the old-fashioned way. Yeah,
I think what most people are doing now with like, well, I could, you know, listen to a podcast expert about this, or go to therapy, or read the book. It's very indicative of where we're at culturally, where everything has become so heady. Like we're very over intellectual. We think about things to death. We worship science, for example. But this other way of operating, like, well, let me just trust in the power and the magic and the whimsical nature of these plants and live in the surrender experiment of seeing what's possible there. That's like completely not heady, because to the head, to over a logical brains, like, what the fuck are you saying right now? But to that deeper part of you that like is willing to try to fuck around and find out in that lived experience way. Really, really powerful, and probably more of what people need, because I mean, it's pretty clear where being too heady has gotten us. Yeah, we've created cool shit, like miraculous shit in some ways. You've got, you know, billionaires launching rockets into the sky and all kinds of things, and it's very, very impressive. And at the same time, we're so desperately sick and disconnected and not well and dysregulated. So we need a bit more, dare I say, girl science in our life.
We do. And I think about that all the time. Like, I don't even, and it sounds bad, but I don't think the average person realizes how bad they feel until they start to feel truly good for the first time. And if you just think about how we're going to be fighting so much like with the new generation of kids, and they're growing up with so many chemicals, and it's like you're really taking away their ability. Like, health is a birthright, and it's like this extends to your creativity, to your success. It really ties in. Like, a few nutrients can change your personality. And I really don't think people realize that. Like, confidence is not just it's a physical issue as well. Like, listening to all of these things are so deeply tied to our physical. And so that's why I always push people to take care of themselves first, because you want to have like that fire and that fervor for life. Like, you have to be endlessly curious and be willing to figure things out, because if not, you could miss out on all your gifts that God gave you. Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. You need that energy. And when the tank is on empty, you can't do anything. And it's such a desperate place that people get into. They have to hold on to a shred of hope, because if they lose the hope, then it's descending into a deep, dark depression. They might never get out of it, or they might end up in the medical system forever. And it's a dark existence. I've seen it up close and personal, and you don't want that. So when you can get some generative energy in your life and a little bit of momentum, and just start trying to do things that are energy gaining and not energy draining, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think momentum is very underrated in life. And if it feels like it's working against you right now, you have to find just the minimum effective dose to start shifting that, and then stack it and stack and stack to the point where you get so positively forward momentum that nothing can really derail you. I felt like that now for a long time. And I've had some, curveballs, but there's such an overwhelming amount of positive momentum and energy behind me now. And I'm not, this isn't a challenge, God, so don't throw me anything too big, but like, I just like, bring it on. I don't think I can be stopped. And it's not from that just like go hard, a David Goggins masculine mentality. It's like, it's also a big, deep trust and like years of putting in effort to working on myself and looking after my health, and even moving my family to the country and things like that. So it's hard. It's hard if you don't have energy, but like, this is why powerful stories like yours are important for people to hear, because you can be in a really dark spot and you can come out and you can find these things that will help you achieve, things that you couldn't even have dreamt of a few years ago.
Oh yeah. And I would have never even moved to Austin if I hadn't experienced these things. And so it all comes back around for a reason. But I love what you said about how you're not afraid of chaos. And that's like true health to me, is like not being afraid of chaos. Yeah. I have this really crazy theory. And if I had like unlimited funds, I would just like run experiments on my theories all day long. But I have a theory that like hormonal birth control made women worse drivers. And I think that like we're so stressed that things that should not be stressful, like parallel parking, somehow became very stressful. Like, I feel like every time I meet a woman that can't parallel park, I'm like, were you on birth control for 10 years? Like, did this mess up your stress hormones? Like, people used to like go on great adventures and get on ships not knowing if they would come back. And now we're scared to, turn left across some traffic. Like, where did our sense of fear get so messed up? And I think that we're so inundated with small stresses that we cannot handle like the tiny ones. So I like what you said about just really embracing chaos. It's just, that's how peak health to me is embracing chaos. Yeah.
I think that is going to be a big thing that we lift the lid on relatively soon, where people are going to look back and say like, what were we doing getting this many women on birth control this early and with complete unchecked anything. I mean, I asked my wife this, she was on birth control. I asked my sister-in-law, she was put on. Did anybody at any point ever say that there could be any potential side effects? They were like, no. They were only told that it's all positives, all good, full send, no dramas. This will help clear up your hormones, help with acne.
That's the thing. Most of my friends who were 14 or 15 and got put on it went to their dermatologist for acne, and their dermatologist is the one that's prescribing them birth control, which is crazy to me. There was just no inhibitions on it. I mean, now, like, I went to 7-Eleven the other day because I needed makeup wipes, and they didn't have makeup wipes, but they had, what is that, Plan B pill, which is just like a really high dose of birth control. And people just take those, like candy basically, but which is crazy. The Plan B pill is actually not that effective because it only works in that short window right before you're ovulating. So it's only going to technically work. So it's like over 87% effective. And I'm like, well, you could really only work for like, 4 days at a time. So yeah, I'm like, this is crazy that we just have this on street corners, and there's that over-the-counter birth control pill now too. So it's just, I mean, it's crazy, and people should be very mad about this. Like,
they should be very mad about this.
They should, yes. I feel like if I was put on it by a dermatologist, I don't know what I would do, but
we would rage. We rage is what we
rage.
do. It's because there's just a massive lack of, I like this term, informed consent, right? Everybody should be informed. So when they consent to something, they're doing so with all of the information on the table. And I feel like there is no informed consent when it comes to birth control. It's people that learn about it after the fact. And either in your case are like, wow, thank God I never got put on that, or didn't choose it. Or people that have been on it and been like, those motherfuckers.
Yes. Yeah. And it's crazy too. I think it's just such a control tactic, because if you look at places, you know, like you can control women by not teaching them about their cycle, because one, they're going to get on birth control, and then that doubles their chances of getting on an SSRI later. So they're becoming they're becoming a long-term patient. But on the flip side of that, it's political control as well, because people act like they care about women performatively, but they don't care about the actual issues that are affecting their health or the way that they experience medical trauma. But then every time an election comes around, it's like, oh, well, what about your rights? And it's like, what are you talking about? Like people died in birth control trials. Where were their rights then? Like, that's a crazy, and it's become so political, and it's just people latch onto it immediately because they're like, well, it's like my body. I'm like, but what do you know about your body? Yeah. Like it is your body, but what do you know about it? Like, you don't even know how it functions. You can't even stand up for yourself in a doctor's office, which is obviously, like, I'm not putting the blame on the people. I think that that should be a part of our education system, but I think it's specifically not, because women who control their cycles sovereignly are a much bigger threat to not only big pharma, but to politics too as well.
100%. Yeah. And because those women are just not going to be a part of your games and your system, you know? Yes. And I think the whole female empowerment, sexual revolution, birth control, it's actually a Trojan horse by the patriarchy. Yes. Is what it is. It's 100%. Because really when we moved from a brawn-based economy where it was just like men building shit and roads and buildings to a brain-based economy where they just needed more butts in seats, more people to chug the numbers and things like that, they were like, most of these women aren't doing it because they're at home having babies. Yes. So let's sell them, hey, you don't need to just be a stay-at-home mom. Oh, it's so you sell them this thing. It's perfect. You can prop it up as female empowerment. You can now turn women into little men, and all in service of the beast, you know, the corporate beast. And you've got, you know, millions of people on the street last weekend screaming no kings, but simping for a corporate boss who's a man, and the patriarchal system and all of that stuff. I'm just like, it's when you start, that's the issue with all of this stuff, right? When you start to peel back the layers, you're like, oh, it's pretty messed up. And it's all, I love what you said about, you know, standing up for your rights and my body, my choice, and you don't even know what your body is. And
you don't know anything about your body. And it's just like, it's just become a phrase that people throw around and use it as an excuse. And birth control paved a way for people just to have hedonistic sex without consequences across all. And I just don't think that's normal. Like, it's just created a really, really toxic culture. And I do think, I mean, I read that book. What was it called? It was called This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. Yeah. And it was so heartbreaking because I think it was in the prologue, maybe. She was on birth control for 10 years. And when she got off of it to have kids with her husband, she was like, I felt my personality come back. Yeah. But at the end of the prologue, she said, but I would do it all the same again because I probably wouldn't have made it through my, you know, medical degree or law school without it. And I was like, what? Yeah. Like, where is your loyalty to yourself? Like, this idea that, oh my gosh, I would have gotten pregnant without birth control. It's just crazy to me. Like, it's actually a little bit hard to get pregnant. And so I think that just like that mindset has always just really, really bothered me a little bit.
The programming runs very, very deep, unfortunately. You said something there about women that have been on birth control, X amount more likely to be on an SSRI in the future. And this is another one of the things that I kind of rail against online right now, is kind of this overprescription and use and dependency on SSRIs. Have you heard about post-sexual SSRI dysfunction? That a non-significant amount of people will have complete, unresolvable genital numbness after use of SSRIs. And there's emerging studies coming out about this. Is it 1% of users? Is it 5% of users? Let's say it's more than it should be. And there's millions of people being put on SSRIs, men and women. And it's leading to all kinds of manner of complications. And I think more people are starting to make reels about getting off slowly and like finding themselves again. And that one's a trip for me, because what I've seen with the whole SSRI thing is, you know, like hot girls take Prozac kind of messaging and all of this stuff.
Hot girls have tummy issues and take drugs.
Yeah. What does girl science think about this?
Oh gosh, one, it's just bad branding. Like, why do you want to brand like your tummy issues and your birth control as part of your personality? Like, it's
very true.
It's honestly a very masculine approach to things, I would say. And the SSRIs thing really bothers me because it just came out. They're like, well, there's no proof that that chemical imbalances are real.
Right.
And if we look a little bit deeper, we do know that we want serotonin in our brain, but too much serotonin in our gut is actually going to deplete the dopamine in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so people have a lot of really mood lifting effects with things that actually decrease the serotonin in the gut because it's going to increase the dopamine in their brain. And it's making people very numb, anhedonia, like all of those kinds of things. And it's so fun. I just like wish I could like reach through the screen and help people.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I know that this probably sucks so bad, but there are so many ways out of this. And there's so many little things that we don't realize affect our mental health. Like, things, what was this? This was a really fascinating story. This girl was diagnosed with, I want to say like pretty severe like BPD and OCD. And she got medicated, all of these kinds of things. And then she eventually, like, her health issues didn't go away. And then she down the line discovered that she had MCAS and she had severe histamine intolerance. And once she fixed her histamine intolerance, all of her OCD symptoms went away.
Wow.
And so it's just, my thing with that is like, if you over-identify with, you know, the whole hot girls have tummy issues, it's just a way, I think everybody really wants to be seen and loved. And I think it's a way to like be seen and loved and connect with people through a little bit of misery in the very like off the bat of meeting someone. And everything's just become very much like nihilistic and pornographic and there's no decorum. And so I think it just kind of like is a way to demoralize people long term. And just make it normal. Like,
completely normalize
just make it completely normal. But it's not normal. It's not normal.
But it's not normal,
no,
right?
Not
it's
at all.
common, but it's not normal.
Yes, exactly.
Talk to me a little bit more about histamine, because I know you've talked about this. It's what's going on in the body. How might, as a spicy girl science theory, how might histamine issues lead to situationships?
Okay, so forgive me for the story I'm about to tell, but so I had a cat of 15 years. And I never want to keep an animal past their expiration date. Like, didn't want him to suffer, but he'd just gotten a surgery and he was doing well, but he wasn't eating after that. And so I was talking to one of my friends who there's a compound, it's a compound called cyproheptadine, and it's a pharmaceutical strength or pharmaceutical grade antihistamine. It's like similar to like a Benadryl. Like, it's an anticholinergic, but it's similar to Benadryl. It'll make you sleepy. It'll make you hungry. And he was like, well, just give him a few drops of this, which, by the way, and I'm not condoning this behavior, but it's a research chemical ordered from Bulgaria, but you can get it through a doctor too. And I was like, well, I can't give this to my cat without researching it first. So I did a bunch of research on if it was safe for cats, and vets will like prescribe it sometimes to animals to increase their appetite. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it on myself first. So I took like a pretty significant dose. And at the time, I had this brutal crush on someone that I had no business having a crush on. And it was like one of those things where I was like, why do I like him? Like, we don't even really have like a really good connection.
Right.
Like, he's very hot, but intellectually, like, we couldn't have a conversation. Like, it was just like, but I was obsessed with him. And I'm not like a man obsessed girl. Like, it's very rare for me to have a crush on someone, and it takes a lot for me to really like someone. So I was like obsessed with this guy, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Anyway, so as I'm experimenting with my cat, I take this allergy medicine, and I noticed like almost overnight, all of my thoughts about this person went away. Whoa. And so I was like, one, I did give it to my cat. His appetite came back. He ended up living for 6 more months. So that's a plus. But so my theory about how histamine intolerance can lead to situationships stems back to COVID, because what people think long COVID is, I think, is a histamine intolerance problem. Because if you get sick specifically with COVID, and I'm pretty sure I got it a few years ago, but I never tested for it. I'm like, I'm sick, I'm going to stay home, whatever. And afterwards, I started having awful histamine intolerant symptoms. But at the time, I didn't know that's what it was. I thought I was living in a moldy house. Like, a lot of foods will trigger a histamine response. So if your body can't break down histamine, because it's an immune response,
Yep.
but if your body has too much of it, like if a bucket that overflows, or your body can't break it down, that's when it becomes a problem. So you want a little bit of it, but an inability to process it becomes a really big problem. Extreme brain fog, very watery eyes, very tired, like that I want to crawl out of my skin type of anxiety. But the brain fog is the worst. And so I got sick and I started having the symptoms, and I couldn't eat any of the foods I could normally eat because things like bone broth, dairy, fermented foods are high in histamines.
Right.
I had like a cup of goat yogurt while I was driving, and like my eyes were watering so bad. I was like crying, and I felt like this weird pressure in my ears, and I started to feel really weird, and I thought it was maybe the mold in my house. I was like, something's wrong with me. And then a few months later, I had taken some Benadryl, and I had noticed that all of those symptoms went away. And there's a huge relation between histamine intolerance and what women experience, like that really severe depression before they get their period. PMDD has a huge relationship. So like estrogen and histamine have a big relationship. And so women are taking anti-allergy meds in their luteal phase to decrease this depressive symptoms as well. But coming back to the obsessiveness aspect of it, it can trigger OCD-like thoughts and symptoms in some people. And everyone's going to experience a histamine intolerance differently. And because COVID, that specific type of virus, or really any virus, is going to create an immune response, people get really bad histamine intolerance flares after that. And so I fully believe that's what long COVID is. And I've had so many friends text me, like, after they've gotten sick, they're like, I'm so brain fogged. And I'm like, if it's an emergency, take some Benadryl and wake up tomorrow, see how you feel. There's like long-term things you can do, but I think sometimes you do need just like an immediate relief if it's really severe. And so I've just noticed in myself personally, and through looking on the internet, of all these people saying that their literal OCD symptoms decreased when they started addressing this problem with histamine. And so I'm like, here's what I think. This word situationship came out of nowhere post-COVID, right? Like, we didn't have situationships before the past few years, and everyone got really sick. Most people don't take care of themselves. All these people are complaining about long COVID, and they get these like obsessive thoughts. And I think that if you have one person in your life to send these obsessive thoughts to, they become that. And so it's somewhat funny to me, but I really do think that this histamine intolerance is like fueling this situationship era that we're in, because it's like not normal. And I don't think it's just dating culture and being online. Right. Like, I think it has something physical, because these people are like, I was like in love and obsessed with this person, and like anytime they text me, it's like the best thing ever. And I'm like, I don't think that's normal
so interesting
to react that way to someone who like doesn't really like you.
Right.
And so that was like my personal thing, is I'm like, you don't need to text back. You just need a little bit of Benadryl. And
wow.
we'll get on
I can't wait for a comment to come in on this and was like, you know, in a week from now, she was right. It was just the Benadryl that I was missing. Not that fuck boy.
No, that's what I'm saying too. I'm like, leave him. Like, it's not.
Leave his ass.
Situationship should not. You should never even entertain that idea. Like,
man.
They just don't really like you. But like, it's not going to hurt as bad if we get your histamine intolerance under control. I promise.
Wow. Speaking of fuck boys, what's the good, the bad, and the ugly of living in Austin, Texas? I saw you post something a bit playful, you know, fake cowboys and real cults.
Oh, yes. Well, quick little tidbit here. Before I moved to Austin, someone warned me. They said, beware of the tap water and the cults. I was like, but the person who told me this is the same person who reported Jeffrey Epstein to the FBI, the first person who ever reported him 25 years ago.
What?
So I was like, if she's telling me there's cults in Austin, and she was like, there's tons of thyroid problems in Austin because the tap water is some of like the worst in Texas. But yeah, back to Austin's definitely full of fake cowboys and real cults. Avoid the cults. There's some weird stuff going on here that I really can't say, but I will say there's like legitimate cults here.
Yeah.
And to keep your eyes out. And it is definitely full of fake cowboys. It's like a lot of I don't know. I saw a pair of socks at the market that was like Body by Pickleball, and I was like, this is like the epitome of like dating in Austin. It's like, you're gonna meet some guy that wears some socks that it's like says Body by Pickleball. I'm like, that's like my worst nightmare. Yeah. And so the good, the bad, and the ugly from that is, I've never been on a dating app literally ever. Just because it freaks me out. Like, I get so nervous.
Crazy, that thing.
I get so nervous on first dates. Like, I talk fast. I speak in riddles and fun facts. Like, it's not a good. You
start telling people to take Benadryl.
Yes.
Like, it gets weird quick,
yes, it gets really weird real quick. Like, don't get me on one of my special interests on a date. So I'm like, I gotta stick to like normal nice subjects. Like, I gotta be a normal nice girl for this guy that's buying me dinner. But yeah, I feel like everyone in Austin's like super spiritual, new agey, almost too much for my liking.
It's either like the two like prototypical archetypes I
Yes.
see when I come into town is you've either got like the fitness like hybrid athlete guy with no shirt and a go on more hat who's doing a high rocks every weekend, or you've got the wide brimmed fedora guy with the beads who's like, yes brother, you know, like, and that's your pick, you know.
Yes.
And then you've probably got some like really awesome genuine people in the middle, but you got two pretty performative types going on.
Oh, it's such a performative male city. It's absolutely unreal. And everyone's always said like dating in Austin's like awful. And it's honestly the first time in my life like I've ever dated. So I was like, I don't have anything to compare this to. Like when I lived in LA for 3 years, I think I went on one first date that entire time. Like I've been such a hermit most of my life. And so, but yeah, it's the performative male is like, have you seen the memes that's like, if you want a boyfriend, go to Home Depot and look confused?
Yeah.
That's what they do at Whole Foods here. And you have to watch out. Never give your number to the guy at a hot bar at Whole Foods.
Wow.
Like I've been, I think on like 3 or 4 dates with guys I've met at Whole Foods. It's always so weird. It's terrible. Like I know he's buying healthy things, but just like don't fall for it.
That's amazing.
It's not good. So yeah, it's very culty. It's very biohacky too.
Yeah.
Like everyone's always like recovering from something. I'm like, everyone's not really an athlete. Like they've never competed in a sport, but they're apparently an athlete. Like it's just a very strange city too. And it's very small. So like if you date someone, like you will run into them.
Yeah. But it's very interesting. It's wonderful and it's wacky and it's weird. And I'm like I said when we were talking off air, I love coming in, microdosing it, having some fun, and then getting the heck out.
Yes.
All right, we couple more for you. I'm curious why all rabbit holes lead to estrogen dominance, and is that why you're always snacking on a carrot?
Anytime anyone texts me about how to fix anything, one of the first things I come back to is the Ray Peat carrot salad, which, by the way, is incredibly effective for too much serotonin in the gut. And it's incredibly effective for bacterial overgrowth in the gut. And it's incredibly effective for estrogen dominance and histamine issues. So that's why I come back to that always, because I think that like our environment, so many things in our environment mimic estrogen nowadays. And so if we look at, you know, like the clothes we wear, the products we consume, the plastic we drink out of, we're just like a very like estrogen dominant society spiritually as well. And so I think that even like, because I think that was in reference to someone was talking about after the big protein boom, there's going to be a big fiber boom.
Yeah.
But fiber, people have really complicated opinions on fiber, and this is where I want to say that everyone's very different. But fiber, like one of the only ways to get excess estrogen out of your system is through your bowels. So that's why the carrot salad is so effective, because it's an insoluble fiber that's going to kind of like, because it doesn't like, it's not like grabbing on to literal like estrogen, but it's like keeping that part of your system flowing, and it's reducing the bacterial that's going to proliferate the excess estrogen basically. And so every time I see something that's like a really big new trend, I'm like, this is all coming back to estrogen dominance, because estrogen's not just the female hormone, as Ray Peat said, it's the stress hormone. So if it's the stress hormones out of control, and that's where you get even things like breast cancer, a lot of different types of cancer. Like I always think about that with people that are on like, you know, different types of hormones, how it's just like affecting them. And so that's my thing, is like all rabbit holes lead back to estrogen dominance, because I think a lot of the reasons that people start feeling better, even if they do like a diet like Whole30, is because they've increased their protein and they've increased their fiber. And by in turn, that's somehow just reduced estrogen as well. And so I think that's why like it does come back there quite often, that people feel really good once they begin to decrease the excess estrogen. Yeah,
I'm a big fan also of the carrot salad. It's very underrated tool, I think.
I think so too, and I think people just don't commit to it. Like you really gotta
be consistent.
You have to be consistent to notice the difference, but I feel like it's just great for like my gut health, and I noticed a huge difference in my hormones once I started doing that. So
that's big.
Yeah.
All right, last one for you. Put you on the spot a little bit and have some fun. But if Girl Science had the most like out there experiment to run, or the most unhinged thing that you would like to theory, let's say, or something you would like to quantify, what would it be? What's something that percolates as an interesting Girl Science theory you're cooking back there?
Ooh. Okay, I have a few. One of them, if I had like a little lab I would run the experiments to see if I was right about the birth control and the bad driving. I would run the experiments to see if the situationship crisis is proliferated by histamine intolerance. Another theory that I really love is how gluten intolerance is actually some people, it can be like a cause of actually like psychiatric things as well. So I don't eat gluten, and I've never had it. I don't know if I'm celiac. I've never had a test. I've never done anything. I was getting gray hairs when I was 24. I stopped getting gray hairs when I cut out gluten. But the biggest thing I notice is that if I have like a normal slice of bread out somewhere, it's not like I'm like bloated and uncomfortable. It's not like a physical response. I get like crazy thoughts, like depressive thoughts, like I get nightmares. And so I think a lot of people are actually severely intolerant to gluten, especially if you're a woman with Hashimoto's. That's like number one thing.
Which is very common now.
It is very common now. I tell everyone that's like, I have Hashimoto's. I'm like, cut out gluten at all. Don't even let like a crumb of it into your life. And see how big of a difference that makes. And so I would love to run an experiment on the actual psychiatric effects of gluten on people that are extremely intolerant to it and how that affects them. Just because I've experimented with myself, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have 2 pieces of bread today and see if tonight I want to end it all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm being really dramatic. I want to say that, but I've just noticed like that's been the craziest thing to experiment with me personally, is just like the almost stark difference in my thoughts. And then I get nightmares. I get crazy nightmares whenever I eat a lot of gluten, which it's interesting, right?
Well, there is that the whole gut-brain connection thing. And we do know that gluten is not good for the gut by any means. You know, some people are clearly less sensitive, but it causes leaky gut-like syndromes. It opens those tight junctions. The gut and the brain is communicating. So maybe if it's not manifesting in the gut as like an obvious like bloaty or weird bowel movements, that it's going upstream and, you know, causing something at the level of the brain. And I guess the tagline there would be, bread can make you a crazy bitch.
Bread can make you a crazy bitch.
Yeah.
But one day I'm hoping to bring back bread.
I think this will be the start of something big. I'm expecting a huge donor to come in, support girl science, and we can validate these very, very important theories, because they could save the world. They could save women from getting in car accidents, stop situationships dead in the track, make everybody hot, healthy, and aura maxed to the max. You know, the world could be a good place. Absolutely. The only other one I would do if I had a lot of money would, have you ever seen My 600-Pound Life? I've seen it, yes. It's very interesting. That was like my guilty pleasure show as a kid. Not a good thing for a kid to watch. But the diets they put them on are like so devoid of it's like bad. Egg whites and like turkey bacon. And I'm like, bad. I want to save them so bad. So I'd love to like do an episode, a girl science episode of My 600-Pound Life. Oh, that would be so good. And feed them really nutrient dense foods and like none of like, you know, just absolutely nuke this estrogen dominance problem. That would be my other experiment. That would be very good. That would be very good. Carlisle, thank you very much. This was fun. Where can people go to keep up with what you're getting into and girl science and all that stuff? Oh, yeah. Follow me on Instagram. It's just Carlisle Diana. And I read all my messages. I respond to everything. So if you ever have any questions, you can find me there. And then I'm on Twitter, too. I know people don't even really get on Twitter anymore, but I love it there. So you can find me as Carlisle Diana on there, too. Beautiful. Go let Carlisle know when the Claritin saves you from the situationship, all right? Yes, please report back. We'll see y'all next week. Peace. All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps us spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.